This holiday edition of The Best Times focuses on the act of giving. You'll meet volunteers who keep the spirit of Christmas alive all year long. I'll sit down with Rebecca Kelly of AARP for a discussion about issues that matter to everyone over 50. And you'll meet a Christmas angel. Hello, I'm Chris Hardaway. Welcome to the holiday edition of The Best Times, a series that looks at life after 50. In a few moments, you'll meet people who are living examples of the old lesson, "'Tis better to give than receive." But first, as the year comes to an end, we'll take a moment to reflect back and look forward at some of the important issues affecting the over 50 population. My guest tonight on our It Matters segment is the State Director of AARP, Rebecca Kelly. Rebecca, first of all, welcome to Memphis. Thank you for being on The Best Times. We appreciate that.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're coming towards the end of the year, 2009, so I want to take a look back, and I want to get your impressions of the pluses and the minuses, the positives and negatives of the year vis-a-vis AARP and the over 50 population in Tennessee.
Well, I think it's been a tough year for all of us, including AARP, during 2009. We are not exempt from any of the financial challenges that have hit our country. We have about 34% of all people over 50 in our members. So the individuals who are members of AARP have been hit by the same kind of economic environment that the rest of us under 50 or who aren't members have been hit by. And yet I think there's a resilience and a hope that in another year or two or three that we'll see the more positive end of the economic situation. Folks have lost jobs, they've lost health insurance, and so we at AARP have positioned ourselves and are reminding folks that we're a resource to those folks in a lot of ways, in a lot of different ways.
A year ago at this time, I was preparing a cover story on surviving the economic storm, and things did not look very good a year ago, if you remember. But you know, the stock market has come back fairly well. The housing sector is still unsettled, and you know there may be some foreclosure issues still out there. Unemployment is a real problem right now. What is 10.5% here in the state? A year later, how has the economic landscape changed for the boomer generation and their potential retirement?
Boomers have reinvented every system they've been a part of since they came into the world. They're also that we think of the age of 65 when we think of retirement, and yet we know that many people want to retire before then. So I think folks are looking at retirement age differently and how they move into retirement, and boomers are certainly redefining retirement and what that looks like. Many of them are choosing to work well beyond the 65 years because they either want to or they need to financially. And so again, AARP is serving as a resource to those folks and helping them plan their retirements.
Well, I've done a number of stories about workers who have over 50, they've lost their job for whatever reason, it's disappeared in some fashion. It's just not a good time to be over 50 and out of work because a lot of companies don't view age and experience as an asset anymore. What specifically is AARP doing to help that?
We encourage them to sort of back up a little and think about their experience. We work both with employers and with employees as they prepare to either re-career or fill vacancies that have been lost or jobs that have been cut. Let me first address the employer issue. Research, including our own, shows that older workers do not miss any more sick days than their younger counterparts, for example. Many people think that you would take more sick days as you get older, but we find that older folks take sick days only when there's a medical situation for that, rather than sort of maybe some more minor issues and other sick leave issues that younger folks may take. Also, older individuals have the experience and the practical experience of working for several decades. And so their judgment often is very valuable to a company. And so we work with employers to help them recognize that the value of older workers. The other interesting fact is that the highest growing age segment of online entries is by people over 50. A lot of people don't realize that, but more and more people over 50 are getting online, and they're on email, and they're on Facebook, and a lot of the newer technological social networking ways to communicate. And then from an employee perspective, we encourage folks to look at their background and their employment history and what they've really enjoyed doing, and if they could re-career, if they could pick any job they really wanted to do, what might that be? And we're finding that some folks completely change careers. They may have had a career in finance, and they've always really wanted to do flower arranging or something pretty different from the way they've spent their career. And so we encourage them to do that. They're choosing to phase into retirement and to look at part-time work. And we encourage, I think the good news and the upside of this is that they really do, in many cases, have an opportunity to do the kind of work that they might have wanted to do for quite a while.
Let's talk about a couple of programs that are vitally important to the entire over 50 population, Medicare and Social Security, because the future of those two is very questionable. According to the things that I've read, Social Security will be out of money by 2037. Medicare is going to run out of money even sooner, 2017. What's being done to keep these social programs viable and vital?
Again, let me separate them. Medicare, AARP is fighting right now to protect Medicare and to make sure that the guaranteed benefits that people have paid into are there for them and for their children and grandchildren. So as part of AARP's efforts in the debate about health reform, we are fighting to make sure that Medicare is protected. With Social Security, we all know that the sooner we take some action, and we believe, AARP believes, that if we will make some minor tweaks to the system now, it will be there for generations to come. And so we will very definitely be fighting at the table for older individuals and for Social Security to remain solvent for our children and grandchildren.
Let's switch over to the topic of health care, which of course is issue number one and probably will carry us as number one well into 2010. Now, AARP has endorsed the current House bill as we speak here in December. Right now, what's the status of the Senate bill?
They're debating the bill on the floor of the Senate right now. We have not endorsed a Senate bill.
That was my question. I was wondering.
It will sort of depend on how that develops and the conference process. We have endorsed the House bill because it has pieces that we have been fighting for and that we know our members care about. And so more specifically in terms of what we're fighting for, we're concerned about that age group between 50 and 64. Those folks we talked about earlier who are losing their jobs and they're losing health insurance with their jobs. We're also concerned about insurance companies discriminating against older individuals by not including people with a preconditioned illness. Or we know that individually, as people lose their jobs and health insurance and they start trying to buy insurance on the market, it's extremely expensive. So not only can people between 50 and 64 not afford insurance, but often they are excluded from being able to even get insurance if they need it. We also know that if we address some of these complex issues as we all turn 50, if we can address some of those between 50 and 64, it will not cost our healthcare system as much and Medicare as much as we all turn 65 and begin to need some medical care. So we're interested in the 50 to 64 population, but then we're also interested in those guaranteed benefits that people deserve and have paid into with Medicare. Our folks are very concerned about the high cost of prescription drugs. We are fighting to close the popular donut hole. Many of our members are falling into that donut hole, which means they're paying insurance into Medicare Part D, and they're not getting any benefit for that period of money for a long period of time, and that's unheard of for an insurance like prescription drugs. And so we're fighting to narrow that and eventually close that completely. We're also supportive of safe importation of drugs and of the Secretary's ability to negotiate directly with drug companies to reduce the cost of drugs. And then finally, with the older end of our lives, we know from research and polling that we've done even in Tennessee that 89% of people want to stay in their own homes and in their own communities as long as they possibly can. Nursing homes are extremely valuable, but especially in Tennessee, they've been the only option for a long time. And so part of AARP's efforts with health reform is fighting to make sure that we provide options for people to stay in their homes and in communities for that long-term care as long as they possibly can.
You see 2010 better than 2009?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh. I think it's going to be a few years before we begin to see the end of the tunnel, but I think many of us have already changed the way we buy things and the way we save things and the way we look at our behavior, particularly financially. And that may not be a bad thing.
Rebecca, thank you very much for being on The Best Times.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.